Guest of Honour, Deputy Prime Minister Heng, Senior Minister Lam, distinguished guests and colleagues, it is my great pleasure as Chairman of the Board of Directors to welcome you to the Global Maritime Forum's second annual summit in Singapore. Safety should always be our paramount concern, and therefore allow me to inform you of the safety arrangements at this splendid venue. There are no fire drills planned. If a fire alarm goes off, there will be a loudspeaker announcement instructing you to remain calm while the issue is being investigated. If it is a false alarm, a second loudspeaker announcement will let us know. If there is a fire and we need to evacuate, the fire alarm will start again and ring continuously. This is a sign that we must leave the building through the emergency exits. You will find the 3 emergency exits behind you, marked by green exit signs. Staff members will guide you from the emergency exits to the assembly points. Finally, if you are feeling unwell, let a staff member know so that we may assist you. Now let's turn to the summit. I closed last year's summit in Hong Kong by emphasizing that the themes explored and developed at that gathering would not be neglected until we all reconvened a year later in Singapore. I'm glad to say that the past 12 months have witnessed an extraordinary amount of intense and productive activity in a number of key work streams. Under the leadership of Graham Henderson of Shell, supported by a broad range of leaders of corporations and industry associations across the maritime sector, great strides have been made in developing a set of guiding principles aimed at achieving a significant reduction in maritime accidents. You will shortly be briefed fully about this important collaborative initiative, which originated at last year's Hong Kong summit under the name of Together in Safety. Decarbonisation is the second major topic which has absorbed the energies of the Gmf Secretariat and its partners. Taking our lead from the IMO's declared ambition of reducing greenhouse gas emissions from shipping by at least 50% by 2050, the GMF formed a partnership with the World Economic Forum and Friends of Ocean Action to create the Getting to Zero Coalition, bringing together leading stakeholders from across the maritime and fuels value chains, along with committed supporters from the finance and academic sectors, in order to make commercially viable zero-emissions vessels a scalable reality by 2030. We launched the coalition publicly in New York at the UN Secretary-General's Climate Action Summit in front of presidents and prime ministers from all over the world as one of only a few industry-led initiatives getting on stage. As of today, 93 stakeholders have signed up to the coalition, with additional endorsement from 13 countries across 5 continents. And the support base is continuing to grow strongly. Our other major initiative in the area of decarbonisation has been the launch of the Poseidon Principles, which took place in New York in June. This was spearheaded by a group of shipping bankers led by Michael Parker, Paul Taylor, and Kristin Holt, who developed a framework for assessing and disclosing the climate alignment of ship finance portfolios. Consistent with the policies and ambitions of the IMO, the principles are applicable to lenders, relevant lessors, and financial guarantors, and apply globally. For the first time, measurement of carbon intensity will be an essential element for the signatory institutions in the evaluation of their shipping finance business. Now, what is the common element in all these initiatives? It is collaboration and industry leadership in pursuit of an objective which is regarded as beneficial for the maritime industry as a whole and for society at large. This requires certain individuals and organizations to take the lead in framing a strategic plan and then mobilizing the required level of support to make it actionable. As we all know, this has not, in the past, been the norm for the maritime industry, which has tended to operate in silos and to value independence. The contribution which the Global Maritime Forum has been able to make is to encourage, convene, and support leaders from across the maritime spectrum to come together, exchange ideas, and come up with solutions to fundamental challenges which affect all of us. The fact that so many of you are gathered here today is a testimony to the progress which has been made. Last year's summit also identified the importance of including the voices of the next generation of maritime leaders in our discussions. To achieve this, we launched a global essay competition where we received submissions from young, aspiring maritime leaders from 46 countries. I am pleased to say that the 3 winners will join our discussions at the summit. Based upon the deliberations last year in Hong Kong and the intensive activity which has taken place in numerous groups, working groups, over the past 12 months, we have a program for this year's summit focusing on 4 main themes: safety, decarbonisation, the talent base required by our rapidly changing industry, and the need to improve efficiency and eliminate waste, for instance, through increased digitalization and data sharing. I would like to emphasize that the purpose of the GMF Summit is to stimulate active debate, the expression of strongly held opinions, and the exchange of ideas. Because of the broad range of perspectives represented here today, we have a unique opportunity to see problems in the round and to develop solutions which take account of the complex interactions along the maritime value chain. Where fundamental disagreement exists, we should honestly acknowledge that and not attempt to fabricate an empty consensus. But where all parties can see a way forward, which will serve the greater good, we should spare no effort to turn a concept into an action plan. By the close of proceedings tomorrow, I am hopeful that we will have reached a set of conclusions which will determine our practical objectives over the next 12 months. To enable us to get there, I am very pleased to say that we will have the expert assistance of our moderator, Meredith Sumpter, Head of Research, Strategy and Operations at Eurasia Group. Meredith's qualifications in the fields of trade and geopolitics, demonstrated when she was a panelist at the Hong Kong Summit last year, will ensure that we are in the best possible hands. So over to you, Meredith.
Thank you, Peter. Welcome to the 2019 Annual Summit of the Global Maritime Forum. I am delighted to be here to serve as your moderator, but evermore I am excited to be part of this unique forum with industry leaders coming together over the course of 2 days to chart the onward course of the global maritime industry, developing actionable ideas to address key challenges and opportunities, and catalyzing the individual and collective leadership necessary to make it all happen. I can't wait to see where this group takes the global maritime industry next. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce our guest of honor, Singapore's Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. Heng Swee Keat. Deputy Prime Minister Keat is also the Minister of Finance and a Member of Parliament for the Tampines GRC. In his role, the Deputy Prime Minister is at the center of Singapore's economy and strategy. He has co-chaired the Committee on the Future Economy, which charted the strategies for Singapore's next phase of growth. He chairs the tripartite Future Economy Council, which oversees implementation of national strategies in areas such as skills and capabilities, development, innovation and productivity, and industrial transformation. He is also the chairman of the National Research Foundation, which sets the direction for Singapore's research, innovation, and enterprise strategies. The Deputy Prime Minister also has a solid understanding of the importance of human capital to economic vibrancy. In his prior roles, he served as the Minister of Education from 2011 to 2015, driving programs that emphasize the holistic development of students and multiple education pathways. Our guest of honor is utilized collaboration and consultation, key values that we also cherish here at the Global Maritime Forum. While at the Ministry for Education, he also led our Singapore Conversation. This was a national consultation that reached nearly 50,000 Singaporeans on their aspirations for Singapore's future. Prior to entering politics, Mr. Heng was the Managing Director of the Monetary Authority of Singapore. He has served in various other public sector positions, including appointments as the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Trade and Industry, as the Chief Executive Officer of the Trade Development Board, and as the Principal Private Secretary to then Senior Minister Lee Kuan Yew from 1997 to 2000. The Deputy Prime Minister was awarded the Gold Medal in Public Administration and the Meritorious Medal for his many contributions to the public service in Singapore. Please join me in welcoming Deputy Prime Minister. Thank you.
Mr. Peter Stokes, Chairman of the Global Maritime Forum, Dr. Lam Pin Min, Senior Minister of State for Transport and Health, Mr. Loh Gai Seng, Permanent Secretary for Transport, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, very good morning to everyone. I'm very happy to join you this morning for the second edition of the Global Maritime Forum Annual Summit. And to our guests from overseas, a very warm welcome to you. Earlier on, we were chatting about this forum, and I was told that there is no forum that anyone has attended where you have more pre-reading. And I, being former Minister for Education, my immediate question was, is there an exam when you come in? So I was assured that there is no exam, and that, but instead you will be engaged in very active discussions for 2 days. And my follow-up question was, what about some leisure? Because play is very important for learning. So I hope that some of you will have some time to look around this place. Now, this summit is an occasion for leaders from the industry, international organizations, and governments to come together to discuss the latest developments in the maritime industry, exchange views, and explore new areas of collaboration. By working together, we can create a better future for all. Maritime trade has been Singapore's lifeblood and an integral part of our national identity. Hosting the summit this year is of additional significance to us because we are also commemorating our bicentennial, which marks the founding of modern Singapore 200 years ago, with the establishment of a free port here. Where we are gathered here today, Gardens by the Bay, was where the original Singapore harbour was. It may be hard to imagine, as we have reclaimed and transformed this plot of land. But 200 years ago, there would have been all kinds of ships anchored here. Chinese junks, Bugis prahus, Arab dhows, East Indiamen, and ships from different parts of the region and from Europe. Smaller vessels would have been shuttling back and forth between the anchorage here and the warehouse along the banks of the Singapore River, loading and unloading their cargo. In fact, Singapore was already part of a vast regional maritime trading network, well before the arrival of Sir Stamford Raffles and the British East India Company. Ancient texts tell of a bustling port city here as early as the 13th century. Archaeologists have unearthed numerous artifacts all over the region, suggesting that ancient Singapore, or Temasek as it was called then, had been a maritime emporium. The maritime industry has put Singapore prominently on a global map, and it remains crucial to the Singapore economy. We are a leading container hub port with the world's largest transshipment volumes. We are also an international maritime center, home to more than 150 international shipping groups and 5,000 maritime establishments. Hence, we take a great interest in the future of the maritime industry, and we want to contribute to the development of the maritime community. Today, more than 80% of global trade still goes via sea routes. Shipping will continue to dominate trade flows in the years to come, as it is the most cost-effective means to move goods from one part of the world to another. But the world is changing. Three key trends in particular can fundamentally change how the maritime sector operates. 1, stresses on the international trading system. 2, climate change. And 3, technological advancement. To stay relevant and to stay ahead, the maritime sector needs to ride the winds of change and the waves of disruption. So let me share my thoughts on how we can respond to each of these trends. First, we must continue to uphold an open, rules-based multilateral trading system at a time when the global order is under pressure. The General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, or GATT, which was set up in the wake of the Second World War, established a set of global trading rules. Since then, GATT was succeeded by the World Trade Organization, or WTO. World trade has expanded significantly over the years. In 2018, world exports was more than 300 times the level in 1948. The expansion of trade and investment has enabled the economic growth of an unprecedented scale all over the world. In recent years, the global trading system has come under stress. Trade frictions are rising, investors are facing greater uncertainty, and the benefits of growth have been unevenly distributed. This is an issue that the global community must address, to review and update the global rules, and to undertake difficult structural reforms in each of our economy. The benefits of a global division of labor is considerable, and it is critical that countries work together and uphold our multilateral system and institutions. The maritime sector in particular has benefited from global rules, the most significant of which are multilateral agreements like the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, and institutions such as the International Maritime Organization, or IMO. UNCLOS has created a rules-based framework vital for maritime trade, in particular, striking a balance between the rights of coastal states and the right to freedom of navigation, including the straits used for international navigation, like the Straits of Malacca. The IMO has established a common international standards for shipping to ensure safe, secure, and efficient shipping and clean oceans. Singapore has been the long-standing supporter of the IMO and UNCLOS. We have been an IMO member state since 1966 and have been on the IMO Council since 1993. We have also participated in the negotiations on UNCLOS and ratified the convention in 1994. Multilateral frameworks have been a basis for the growth of the maritime sector. We must therefore redouble our efforts to strengthen the multilateral system and create a stable, mutually beneficial environment where countries can come together to tackle common challenges. Second, we must work together to address the common challenge of climate change. Climate change is an existential issue for many parts of the world, and particularly for island states like Singapore. Singapore is committed to doing our part under the Paris Agreement and reduce our emissions intensity by 36% from 2005 levels by 2030. In the maritime sector, sea trade is still the most energy efficient and environmentally friendly mode of transporting cargo. But the IMO has not stood still. It has adopted an ambitious strategy aimed at reducing greenhouse gas emissions from shipping by at least half before 2050 compared to 2008 levels. Come January 2020, the IMO's 0.5 global sulfur cap for marine fuels will come into force. Singapore fully supports these efforts and will continue to contribute. We worked with fellow IMO member states to find common ground on the IMO adoption of the initial strategy on the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions from ships. We have also put in place measures to support companies adopt clean and green shipping practices over and above the minimum required by IMO conventions. We believe that Singapore can do more. We are already ready for LNG bunkering today. This provides a cleaner and greener fuel alternative to meet the future needs of shipping. As part of our efforts to develop Singapore's LNG bunkering ecosystem, the Maritime and Port Authority of Singapore, MPA, has also co-funded 2 LNG bunker tankers. The first tanker will be delivered in the third quarter of 2020. This will coincide with the anticipated increase in LNG demand as more ocean-going LNG-fueled vessels come into operation and call at our ports. We set up a Center of Excellence for Maritime Energy and Sustainable Development at the Nanyang Technological University to provide innovative solutions in the areas of sustainable maritime operations, emissions management, and energy management. I've spoken about the need to uphold multilateralism and to commit to sustainability. The third key trend confronting the maritime sector is the rapid advancement of technology. By harnessing the potential of technology, we can propel the maritime sector forward. New technologies are opening up new possibilities for physical port infrastructure and port connectivity. Our new port in Tuas is expected to commence its first phase of operations in 2021 and to be fully completed in the 2040s. Tuas Port will be equipped with the latest technologies and systems to meet the future needs of the maritime industry. Long linear berths and deep water capabilities will provide maximum flexibility to accommodate ships of different sizes. In addition, the Maritime Ports Authority is working with industry players to test-bed new technologies and concepts to improve efficiency, safety, and security. One example is our next-generation vessel traffic management system that will enhance the safety of navigation for ships by leveraging digital technologies and data analytics for enhanced maritime situational awareness and proactive traffic management. Later this morning, the Maritime Port Authority will be signing an MOU with Norway's DNV GL to initiate joint industry projects in new and promising areas, such as low and zero carbon ship fuels, remote controlled ship operations, and blockchain technologies for port and shipping processes. Singapore is also investing in digital platforms to promote data sharing and improve the efficiency of our ports and maritime industry. I'm happy to announce that Singapore will be launching a new maritime single window for vessels called Digital Port at SG. Digital Port at SG will be developed in 2 phases. The first phase will provide a one-stop clearance for vessel-related transactions. This simplifies the current reporting processes required by 3 public agencies: the Maritime Ports Authority, the Immigrations and Checkpoints Authority, and the National Environment Agency for all arriving and departing ships. This will be rolled out progressively from December this year and is estimated to save the industry 100,000 man-hours per year. The second phase will be rolled out over the next few years. Digital Ports at SG will be a single digital shop front for the booking of terminal and marine services, facilitating just-in-time operations for optimal vessel passage planning in the port. We'll also make the vessel and cargo clearance processes seamless for vessels coming to Singapore. Digital ports at SG, the single window for vessel clearance and services, will be interoperable with our network trade platforms, the single window for cargo clearance and services. For example, advanced arrival and departure information declared by vessels will be shared seamlessly across the two platforms. We also hope to make digital ports at SG interoperable beyond Singapore's shores, so that industry players can gain greater operational efficiency. For a start, the Maritime Port Authority has signed an MOU with the China Maritime Safety Administration to cooperate on the use of electronic certificates for ships. This allows for seamless exchange of ship credentials for port regulatory functions. The Maritime Port Authority is similarly collaborating with Denmark, Finland, and Panama on this. Our vision for the global maritime industry is for ships, ports, and global platforms to share data and operate seamlessly. Digital Ports at SG is Singapore's contribution to help connect our seas and oceans with a single digital ocean. I've outlined how the maritime sector can ride the winds of change and waves of disruption by upholding multilateralism, by stepping up our efforts on sustainability, and by harnessing the advancement of technology. And this will require the collective efforts of industry players, multilateral institutions, and governments. And earlier we heard from Peter the 4 big topics of discussion that you are having over the next 2 days. And these are extremely good initiatives for the industry to come together to discuss this. Together, we must be prepared to agree on and make bold moves to position the maritime sector for the future. From our own experience developing Singapore's maritime sector, I'm glad earlier generation of leaders took bold decisions. We took the plunge and built the region's first container terminal in 1972, when containerization had yet to fully take off. And Singapore continues to look ahead today, push the frontiers, and introduce new solutions like digital ports at SG. I'm very glad that we have platforms such as the Global Maritime Forum for leaders from different parts of the maritime industry from across the world to come together to discuss the latest developments, exchange views, and new areas of cooperation. Your forum theme is taking the lead, and I hope that by staying focused on the future and work together, the global maritime community can take the lead to chart a forward-looking course for the global maritime community for many more years to come. I wish you all a very productive summit, and I hope that all of you will have an enjoyable stay in Singapore. Thank you very much.